Hey, everybody, welcome to the On Time, On Target Financial Thought Leadership Series. I'm privileged to bring to you today Scott Brewer, who I met online through it sounds weird to say, but I met online through a Facebook page called Vetrepreneur. And I don't know exactly, it was stood up by a bunch of great people. And I started, reading through posts and finding other entrepreneurs out there. And actually, Scott had a podcast called the Veteran Entrepreneur Podcast. And I said, hey, I'm a veteran and an entrepreneur, and I'm also a podcaster. So, hey, why don't I reach out to Scott? So I did through this page and said, I have an interesting story to tell. I don't know if it was all that interesting or not, but he thought it was interestingly enough to bring me onto his show. And today, so I wanted to return the favor, and also because Scott is an entrepreneur, he's service first kind of guy, and you'll hear that when he tells the story here real quick. But he's got that itch, right? That entrepreneur itch of, I know I can do more. I know I can, have good products and services for people to follow and make some money on the side. So with that, Scott, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your backstory.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you returning the favor. I've been watching your channel for a while. I always check out, I like you have the small clips. They're informational. You can learn a lot real quick, and then you can deep dive if you want. So I do appreciate that, and I appreciate your channel as well.
You bet.
Yeah, so I served 8 years in the Marine Corps, 2008 to 2016. I was a communications guy. So I spent time on the ground side and infantry, and then I also spent time on the air side as well. So I did that for about 8 years as a communicator. Throughout that time, on a personal level, I'd done a variety of things as far as from an athletic perspective. I'm super athletic. I'm into sports. I'm very competitive. So I've power lifted. I've run marathons, ultra marathons. I got out of the Marine Corps, and I knew I wanted to start a business, and that sort of spurred from the fitness realm. And so I ended up going to massage school because I wanted to do some sort of therapy and put together a training business and have a one-stop shop, so to speak. So I did that for about a year and a half. I faced some troubles with that, and some hurdles that I had to face and overcome with that. Ended up shutting that down. Opened up another business. It was more of an online training platform. Again, we had to overcome some hurdles. I went to a business with a good friend of mine, and it just didn't work out for good reasons. And then I had a third business, which I sort of launched right in the beginning of the pandemic, and that was a crazy time. And I've had to restructure it, and I'm kind of about to relaunch that, and all while being current law enforcement here in Virginia, Northern Virginia, on the federal side of the house. I work for the Department of the Army, civilian police officer. So, in a nutshell, that's been my little snapshot since 2008.
Well, dude, I appreciate you sharing that, and I tell you, there's so much to unpack right there. I almost can't leave the DC law enforcement with the. We're recording this on January 15th, so we're at 9 days removed from the Yahoos in the Capitol. Did you see any of that action, or
I wasn't personally involved. We did have some mission, regarding that scenario, but thank God I wasn't involved. I did my 8 years. I did my combat tours. I'm good. I'm an American citizen. I love my fellow American. Left, right, center doesn't matter to me. If you believe in America, hey, we're all good here.
Yeah, and that's part of America, right? We're allowed to be crazies. And I used to say, it's not illegal to be a jackass. So a lot of people certainly take opportunity to do that. So we'll see, with the inauguration coming up, that's fun too. Another thing you said, Scott, you don't often, or at least I'm trying to think maybe ever, hear anybody in the same sentence say power lifter and like ultra marathoner. Because, I think, ultra marathoner, I'm thinking that 90 years old, not 90 years old, 90 pounds running the 50 miler, not necessarily somebody doing powerlifting. So you just love to get out there and basically do everything now?
Yeah, I was looking for growth, and I had started listening to David Goggins a couple years ago, and my wife once I had gotten out of the Marine Corps, my wife was still in the Marine Corps, so we actually got orders out of we were at Miramar, Marine Corps Air Station Miramar in San
Rough
Diego.
place to be stationed. Yeah.
Oh, it was the lap of luxury over there. So we got orders to United States Southern Command in Doral, Florida, right outside Miami.
Yeah.
And
Another
when
rough
we
tour.
got, what's that?
I said another rough tour. Yeah. People
Oh, yeah.
out there are not going to be feeling sorry for Scott anytime soon. They're like, eye roll, right?
So a lot of the friends that she had made down there were very much into ultra running. There's a gentleman by the name of Blaine Reeves. He won best ranger, the best ranger competition. He won
Okay.
that in like 1993. He's an older special forces guy, just a total beast of a person. And he got everybody into sort of ultra running and these crazy events because that's what he does. And me being the big meathead macho powerlifter guy, I'm like, yeah, I could do that, and they're like, okay, do it. And I was like, well, fine. Like I listen to David Goggins. I won't even run for it. I don't know if you're familiar with his first ultra, right? He ran 100 miles without training for it. I was
Okay.
like, well, I can do it. If David Goggins can do it, I
Right.
can do it. And they're like, well, go ahead, sign up. So I signed up that night. I trained for 87 days straight. I didn't run one single time, and I got out there and I completed the Keys 150 miler. So you run from Marathon, which is a key in the Keys,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and you run from there to Key West. That's the halfway point. That whole stretch of islands is 100 miles exactly.
Okay.
And you run from the midway point to Key West, and it took me 16 and a half hours, and I couldn't walk barely for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would bet. I mean, I haven't ventured anything into crazy like that. I've done 5 marathons just for the same thing. I was like, yeah, I should, something to do, right? Prove to myself I could do it. And yeah, I'm down for a couple days after running 26.2 miles. So I couldn't even imagine turning around and doing that again, and then again, and then again, and again, or whatever the math works out. That's pretty insane. So after having done that, is that something you would, advise people to do, or just that like that's it's worth it as far as self-accomplishment, or it's nah, probably don't need to be doing that.
I mean, I generally regard myself as an extremist in a lot of ways, in a lot of different venues. For me, there's two ways into a pool, right? You can put your toe in there and go step by step, or you can jump in. I'm more of the thought process of just jump in, right?
Yep,
Like,
I see that.
yeah, I'm not scared. If I fail, it's like whatever. The thing that race did for me was it pushed me so far out of my comfort zone that I had no choice but to really face these demons that you deal with on a daily basis, right? Like can I do this?
Mhm.
Am I even prepared for this? Like, why am I doing this? Like, what I mean? What if I quit? I can quit now. You know what I mean? Like, and you start to go through this process. And I think what that race did for me, even though I didn't necessarily intend it for it to be that way, was it redefined what was possible. And that it didn't fill my ego, because actually, like, my ego was bruised that entire time. I wanted to quit so bad, but I had made a custom shirt with 15 of the 18 guys that we lost on my first deployment. And I basically vowed, to them, God rest, their souls,
Mhm.
that I'm going to carry them across this finish line. That was really like, that was sort of my driving factor, right? It gives me chills thinking I'm getting choked up.
Right.
And so like I felt like I was letting them do every time, because I can't tell you how many times I wanted to quit,
Yeah.
and like I just kept I made this promise, like, and some of these families that I'm friends with on Facebook, and they were following us, like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I can't, like, there's no stopping. Like, I can't stop it. I'm in pain. After mile 30, I couldn't run. I was literally walking and hobbling, and my hip flexors were shot, my ankles. But once I got done, I reflected on it. I was laying in bed. I was bedridden, and I said, "Holy cow!" Like, I didn't even think this. I didn't really understand what this entailed, but this has changed what possible means to me. And anytime I'm facing something that's difficult or that seems overwhelming, I can always look back on this and go, holy shit. Like, I even surprised myself. Like, screw everybody else. Like, this was personal, and like now I'm like, I could do that, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's such an amazing story and an amazing tribute to your friends from your combat days. I was thinking you're right. When you do run a marathon, again, I only have, this small data point of people that are not up for the huge challenge. But it's you always see people running for, and I did my first three. I posted who I was running for. It was one person, generally cancer related. That kind of that sort of battle. But having a purpose certainly it makes you think twice. And then as we kind of segue into, I love your spirit because it makes total sense now. And for the people that are listening out there, if you're hearing these words and you're just like, yep, 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 that he's talking about me. That's the way I think. That's the way I process. Whether you put it very eloquently with how you're saying it, but if folks are like, yeah, that's me in a nutshell. When you translate that skill set, if you will, or that belief, or those driving core values, or however you want to describe it, into entrepreneurship, it's the same thing. When I talk to folks, about should I open a business, I do like to immediately, if somebody's like, hey, sir, I was thinking about opening a business, I'm like, no, don't do that. You don't have the skill set for it. And then they just kind of look, the stunned look, and then I say, that was an academic moment. That's not true. I just wanted to say that because if I can say like 10 words and knock you off your game, probably need to reflect that, yeah, you probably don't need to dive head into the pool, right? If somebody can say something and you're already with self-doubt. But if you got mad or angry in those 10 words that I use, then it's just like, yeah, you're cut out for this. Come on in, sort of thing. So as in the words you use for entrepreneurship, in just your brief intro there of restructure, relaunch, I'm not afraid to fail. Really the ego thing is, a lot of people think it's ego taking you into entrepreneurship. It's generally not. It's generally you've already become one with your ego, and now you're just trying to drive forward. So let's talk first about, you've got a couple things going on. Let's talk first about the podcast, the Veteran Entrepreneur Podcast. How did you kind of come up with that? Where's it at, and where's it going?
Yeah. So when I started Dot Mill Gear, which is my latest business venture, and the one that I see going long term, that I want to make go long term, and committed to, this idea of creating a community of veterans, right, where I can provide a singular platform to the veteran community where they can support other veteran businesses, um, whether they're service related, product related. They can serve the veteran community in providing resources. I'm talking a one-stop shop, right? And that's what I've built. That's what I spent the last 6 months rebuilding and restructuring and refocusing. Um, the podcast is a spoke on that wheel, and the podcast is designed to give the veteran entrepreneur a voice, so people can come to my platform. They can say, hey, I listen to this guy. I like his business. I like his ideas. I assimilate with X, Y, and Z.
Right.
I want to support that guy. Well, where can I find him? Well, I can go to his website, or I can just stay on the Dot Mill Gear website and platform and purchase his products. So what I've created is a spoke on a wheel that can drive to the platform, right? Um, and I can have a triangle, right? I have a veteran who's supporting a veteran who's supporting a veteran, right? And I have this triangulation, or almost like a closed circle, right? Like something that can keep everybody revolved in this particular space. And that was the purpose of the podcast, is to highlight veteran entrepreneurs, give them a voice, and allow them to direct traffic where they need them to go.
Oh, very cool. And when did you start the podcast?
I started the podcast in July, I think late July.
Okay, so yeah, I think we were probably within a few weeks of each other. And one thing that I openly say, if COVID had not happened, obviously COVID is tragic and it's changed our lives, and there's been a lot of tremendous loss of life. And of course, I empathize with all of that. But when faced with adversity brings opportunity as well. And one thing that I know, my podcast would not be here today had COVID not happened, right? Because I would be off doing other things. I wouldn't be locked in my house, trying to do new things. So did COVID play into some of the initiatives you have, or were these good things going to happen kind of anyway because you've been thinking about
This might sound like I'm patting myself on the back, or I'm playing into my ego, but like I genuinely believe within myself, and I've felt this way for as long as I can remember, that I truly feel like I'm destined for some sort of greatness, It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be Kanye West, or I'm going to be, not that he's great, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be like some Hollywood celebrity, but like there's greatness within me. And like, I think about that and I feel it. And then on top of that, something I always think about, I have a mentor that regularly instills this into me, and is, you had a dream when you were a kid, right? Like, you had this idea, this vision, and it wasn't restricted as much. Even if it was restricted, it wasn't as restricted as it is right now,
Oh, yeah.
right? And I always think about that, like, okay, what's the little, I want that little kid in me to be alive, because without that little kid in me, what's the point of being here? Like, I want to dream. I want to accomplish. Like, I don't care if I don't. I want to be able to look back at 80, and if I failed everything and I don't have a dollar to my name, and what, I don't care. I just want to put everything on the line. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, leave it all on the court. Or on the field, or whatever the analogy is there. Something that resonated with me when you just said that is, I grew up kind of listening. I was an only child, so I read, crazy. I read books, right? Which, do kids read books anymore? Anyway, but I grew up listening to motivational speakers, and there was a guy named Jim Rohn back in the day, and he talked about that exact scenario of, if you go into a kindergarten room and say, who in here wants to be a brain surgeon, everybody's hand goes up, right? There's this unbelievable belief in self as a child. And how does that change into an adult that has learned so much and experienced so much, and has now self-doubt about everything they do? And largely it was it's your circle of friends, right? And who you interface with, and, like, literally listening to you, that's making my day better. Just having this interview, because I'm like all fired up now. And if you surround if you surround yourself with people like that, whether you know them directly or you consume their content, it's a game changer. And you literally can walk out and believe in anything. And I think certainly in the entrepreneur world, the more you can believe in yourself and be totally accepting of failure along the way. Like, yeah, if it fails, I'll pivot and move on. It's not, failure is not permanent, right? So I think that is a great way to say all of that. So you've got the podcast. So Spoke on the Wheel, I get that, to the Dot Mill gear, and I know it's under restructuring and relaunch. But what can we expect once you have kind of the relaunch, if you will?
Yeah. So the end state is this. Basically, what I've created is a marketplace, an e-commerce marketplace, similar or akin to Amazon, right? Obviously not on that scale and magnitude, but what I'm trying to do, like I said earlier, is create this centralized location where Steve Ankerstar sells, I don't know, financial calendars, or whatever it is, right? Like, you come to me, you say, hey, I want to list my products on your website. Great. I want you to list your products on my website because you're going to bring value to our community, right? And let's say there's 100 of you in different industries and whatnot. That's what I want. And so when a veteran comes, they know that no matter what I purchase on this website, I'm supporting another veteran. I'm giving a voice to the successful entrepreneur, and I'm also giving a voice and a chance to the small entrepreneur who doesn't have the big social media following, doesn't have a huge Facebook following, right? But they have a product, right? And they believe in it, and it's probably really great. And if I can drive traffic to this site, I can get eyes on that product. And now I can give them a higher probability of success. And I've just helped a veteran. And I guess if you want to extrapolate that out, like, that's what's going to add to the community in the sense of, let's reduce the 22, right? Well, let's help people become more successful. Mm-hmm. The more successful people are in our community, the less that, or the more reduced that number is going to be, right? And now they can provide an opportunity to another veteran and another veteran. And we don't know the upper limits of that. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I believe. I love the power and energy there, and you're right. You bring up an interesting topic there with the 22, and yeah, I mean, that's unexplainable, right? How the self-doubt and self-worth challenges and dealing with military life has led to kind of that. You're right. So I love the energy of bringing it to more of a positive, believe in yourself and looking for good. That is great, and I can't wait to. I'll try to come up with my financial calendar to be able to list on your site. I do want to ask real quick from a money perspective. So, is this like, when I hear stuff, doing e-commerce, is it like print on demand, or how do you envision or is it people like that have the garage full of coffee mugs that say, Dot Mill gear on them? Or what's the vision there? Or it could be some combination of that.
So I work with a buddy of mine is the owner of a company called Feed Me Fight Me. It's a multi-million-dollar company, clothing brand, fitness brand. He's also a veteran. We were in the Marine Corps together.
Sure.
And he runs a 3PL company as well. And so he does all the printing, all the screen printing, everything, shipping, everything. I mean, he does everything in that realm. There was some things that I had print on demand, but I mean, I'm sure, and there's probably some listeners out there that have done it before. It's usually not quality, right? And you're going to pay top notch dollar for it. So the drawback with print on demand is, yeah, you don't have to stock inventory, but you're going to pay the premium, right? As opposed to using like a 3PL or something like that, and you're going to buy everything up front and then try to, sell your inventory. But I'm trying to keep my footprint as small as possible. Because one thing that I learned as when I started this business, it was coffee, apparel, hats, the traditional veteran, like I'm going to start a business pack, right? Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like it's like your national defense ribbon. Like everybody's got it, right? Like, and 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 whatever it is, what it is, right? Because that's I wanted to get going again, right? And so like that's what it was. But look what it spurred on, right? Then I read the book Blue Ocean Strategy. Have you ever read that book?
I have not.
Okay, blue ocean strategy. The concept is really simple. There's a red ocean and a blue ocean. The red ocean, there's blood in the water. Everybody's in the same market trying to get the same customers, and everyone's trying to edge people out by this percent, this percent. Like no. Let's take that red market. Let's go find a blue market, an untapped ocean where you own the market, right? Who's doing this space right now? Who's doing a veteran-based sort of Amazon?
Right.
Platform? No one is. So I was like, well, why stay in this red ocean with all this blood in the water? Why not just go find something else? So that it dawned on me. I was like, okay, I'm going this route. I found my blue ocean. Now I'm gonna roll.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I had not heard that. I'll have to check that out. Now when you listen to Scott and his kind of life story, and I bring this up because we're similar, not in too many ways, but with the military background, I worked my way from a financial perspective is where I'm going. Is I worked my way to a pension. So now when I stepped away at 20 years in the military, I get a pension for life. Scott's obviously working in public service. So do you approach life any differently, knowing that there's a pension, you're en route to that pension? I know you're still working hard towards it. Or is that just gravy at the end of it sort of mentality?
I'm long-term vision. I actually would give up this job if I can get where I want to go with this business.
Okay.
I would actually give it up altogether. Because listen, if I can replace my income but keep a business for a lifetime, or I can sell that business down the road,
Right.
like there's comfort in the pension, I guess, for me, but at the same time, it's like I don't necessarily want to be doing this profession. It's not a passion, right? Like, and I think for someone to be fulfilled in life, you got to be doing something that you want to do, right? Like, and I enjoy it because I'm a people person. I like to talk. I mean, I can't stop talking, right? I love to talk. I love to interact, but I don't like it as a DOD police officer. It's a great job, but I'm not doing a lot of law enforcement, like I'm not, it's confined to the base. I mean, how many murders are going on a military base minus Fort Hood?
Right.
Like, there's just not a lot, right? So it's not like mentally engaging. Like, and I'm always thinking about like, what's next? How can I move this? How can I position this? Right? Like, I want to play chess, and I feel like I'm playing, checkers, at work, so, pension would be great, but doing something that I want to do long term, I think would ultimately fulfill me more.
Yeah, well, I love that perspective, and I generally, I talk a big game, or folks are like, hey, would you have done the military thing if you knew you would be able to stand up a business and be an entrepreneur and be successful? And I was like, well, probably, but honestly, I was more conservative and get the pension, lock that down, and then I can go out and do whatever I want. And, like I told my wife, I'm like, I'm gonna try this for 2 years. If I fail miserably, I will apologize for all the money and time I've cost us, and I will go get my airline job, right? Because I'm an airline or a pilot, so I just go, it's like I had an out. in case I failed. But yeah, I don't know if I could have, pursued the passion earlier. But I certainly do know that being in government service for a long time, 20 years, I was certainly ready to get out of the constraints involved in being told what to do, what to wear. Uh, everybody gets paid the same regardless of what effort they're putting forth. It's just, I don't know. So I like your perspective there. All right. So as we close here, Scott, thanks again for your time. And as for the listeners out there, you're like, wow, you have amazing clarity of vision, which is a lot of people struggle with that. You've done very, very cool things and you have this grand plan. But as with any of us, we know that if we had to go back in time, we'd do things a little bit differently. So if you could advise, the listener out there that's 18 or 19, maybe the Marine, somebody sitting there just in the military going, yeah, this is all right. I like it. I'm kicking ass. But yeah, what's my future going to look like? What would you tell either a young person out there or even a younger version of yourself? What advice would you have for them?
I never would give up my time in the military. That for me was invaluable. That set a platform and a base for me to a launch pad to go from. So I would never change that. Things I did in my childhood, I was a pretty wild kid. I would like to say like there's things that I wouldn't want to have done for sure, but I'm also a firm believer that everything that you've done in your past has led you to this point.
Right.
And I guess the only thing I would change is I would try to fail bigger. I feel like these self-imposed limiting beliefs are the killers of dreams. They're the killers of people. They're the killers of souls. Like when you said earlier, hey, when someone asks me if I should start a business and I tell them like, no, you shouldn't. And you see it, people like they'll listen to you.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you know it because you've done it. And then you just watch them. Right. And it's like that, like, why would Steve Ankerstar, make that impact? Who is Steve Ankerstar to you? Like, you're in control of your destiny. You're in control of your dreams, your thoughts, your mind, and your effort. Like, control the things that you can control and go. And I think a lot of what I was doing was dictated by what I thought and perceived other people would perceive and think of me. And the quicker you can shed that, and it's not like I'm completely free of that. We all have those reins on us still. But the more you can kind of wiggle your way out of those shackles, I'm telling you, that's where the success is found. That's where it's at. It's found in here. It's found in yourself. Nobody else makes a difference. It's you. So I guess the concept is to fail bigger, meaning get out of that mindset that you can't do this because of X. No, not happening.
I love that, and thank you for those words. And yeah, I do try to talk to youth groups, and if you're out there, if you're not out there speaking, you should be. Get in front of, back when we can all have schools normal again. Get in front of youth and tell them that same thing, because you're right, kids believe, but they started, whether it's their parents or siblings or friend circle, everybody starts, beating your dreams out of you with the that's other people do that great stuff, right? Not, so you're right. Careful who you surround yourself with. So Scott, I think folks are going to be inspired by your words today. They're going to want to be in touch or follow you or buy stuff. What sort of social media do you want to put up for them to contact you through?
On YouTube, you can find my channel as .mil media. So DOTMIL, one word, media, second word. On Instagram, you can follow me at .mil, same thing, one word, _gear. And then my website is .milgear.com. So you can find me all those places. We would appreciate your support. And Steve, we're looking forward to having your financial calendar on there soon.
Well, I now have something to do this afternoon. Oh, that's great stuff. Scott, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you for having me, Steve.
All right. Well, hey, listeners, thank you so much for listening today. That's all we have for today's show. Please reach out to me through steve@ototnow.com if you have any questions or comments. I'll make sure everything from today is put in the show notes as far as the stuff that Scott said. And thanks again for joining Scott and I today. And here's to you fighting the good fight every day to be on time and target with your financial goals. Thanks. Bye.